Lasse? Har du? Ja.
Presidents, Prime Ministers, Excellencies, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen, everybody here, heartfelt welcome to Copenhagen, heartfelt welcome to Danish industry. My name is Lars Sandal Sørensen, I'm CEO of Danish Industry, and it's my great honor to be your host and to welcome you here on this very, very special occasion while visiting Denmark and Copenhagen. What unites us all here today is a deep concern about Europe's competitiveness and security, but there is also a shared belief Europe's setback can be turned into a comeback when and if political leaders and business leaders in the spirit of partnership make the right decisions fast. Our hope is that this summit and this engagement also by the private sector of Europe and the commitment to invest further marks a turning point for European competitiveness. Before I hand over to the first speaker, I want to inform you that the Danish Prime Minister may have to leave before the end of this event due to your commitment and obligations at the informal meetings for the heads of state and government here later today. We appreciate your understanding and really appreciate that in your super tight schedule that you're able to be here now. And with that, I will hand over to you, Jakob Wallenberg. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. this is a very important occasion. For business to have a dialogue with you leaders is a key to build prosperous societies for all our citizens. So I really thank you for being here. Now, on competitiveness, obviously we are losing ground. I think it's worthwhile remembering that in 2008, the EU and the United States had roughly the same GDP per capita. In 2023, 15 years later, the United States is 25% larger than the EU and Great Britain together. Now, that to me is a remarkably big number. However, one should remember that the key explanation factor are the Magnificent Seven that grew at an extraordinary pace during this period. So Europe has challenges, but I think it is important not to forget that Europe has great strengths, great people, and great companies. We're proud, and we want to develop. We can. In my view, Europe must move from reaction to action to remain competitive, secure, and resilient. European businesses present here today are ready to act, not just with goodwill, but with concrete intent. We stand ready to invest significantly more in Europe. On average, these companies stand ready to increase their investment levels in Europe by 50% towards 2030. If all large European companies match this level of investment increase, Europe would be on track to close most of the 800 billion annual investment gap outlined by Draghi. But this hand comes with a clear message. We are ready, if you are. We need the enabling conditions to be in place. We are in a hurry, and we need that sense of urgency. We're good at innovation in Europe, but we have not created the right circumstances to allow our innovations to grow from startups to scale-ups and then to big companies. For this to happen, we must firstly channel European private capital to the innovations and stop the capital from sleeping in bank accounts or in mattresses for that matter. Remember, Sweden, Denmark and the Netherlands stand for roughly 70% of all European savings in equities. The rest of all savings is in savings accounts. Now imagine if we unleash the financial power in our mattresses. It's a cultural question. It's not a question of more regulation. To save in equities is good. Secondly, we must create a true European internal market through simplification and harmonization, also in areas such as telecom and energy. I believe that closing the investment gap requires this joint partnership between business and policymakers as evident today. So, Excellencies, this hand is extended in trust. If met with action, it becomes a shared commitment towards a more secure and competitive Europe. And with that, I would like to hand over the Copenhagen Pledge to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Jacob, and thank you all for being here today. Your commitment today means a lot to all of us standing here. And I would like to start by saying that I believe that we are on an important mission together, not only in looking into the beds where the European sleeps, I understand, but also, of course, to create a much stronger Europe, a Europe that is able to compete globally, and a Europe that is capable of defending itself. I totally agree with you, Jacob. Europe is an amazing continent. Some of the world's greatest and most innovative companies were established here, and I see many of you represented here today. But as we all know, we are also challenged. Our competitiveness is challenged. And we risk falling behind a global race going faster than ever before. As everybody here knows, it's often said that US innovates, China replicates, and we regulate. And unfortunately, part of this line is true. We have to change it. Together, we need to lay the foundation for a even stronger and richer and, of course, also more resilient Europe. I am very happy to see that the defense industry is so well represented here today. With the war going on in Europe, we face, and I know that everybody knows that now, we face the greatest security challenge since the end of the Second World War, hybrid warfare and violations of NATO's airspace. So we have to be able to defend ourselves. And the purpose of the informal European Council later on today is actually to assure that we can achieve that. So we need to translate military needs into very concrete deliveries from you. Our ability to scale up production. We have to remove barriers, and we have to deliver real capabilities. All that is very crucial. So to put it very shortly, if you do not succeed, then we will not succeed, and that cannot be the conclusion about Europe. And we cannot wait for others to do the job for us as Europeans. The era of buying cheap energy from somewhere, goods and security from abroad is over. And we need to take on the responsibility on our own shoulders. That's the purpose of the meetings today, and I think we have started it very well out of by being here. So once again, thank you. And Emmanuel, the French President, welcome.
Thank you, Madame la Première Ministre. Thank you, Mette. Lars Jacob, thank you very much for your introduction and your first words, and thank you for this Copenhagen pledge. Look, I totally share first the assessment and what Madam Prime Minister just said. What is the roadmap for all of us? We want to be more competitive because this is the only way to have growth, to create jobs, to finance our social model and the future of young people. We want to be more sovereign because we experienced during the past few years the cost of dependencies, COVID time, war in Ukraine, instabilities of this world, and we want to meet with our commitments on climate change. We have to decarbonize. It's clear because it's as well about our future. In order to deal with that and with these three objectives, we have to innovate much more and we have to be much more efficient because I think the main figures was mentioned by Jacob about the big gap with the US. A third of this gap in terms of GDP per capita difference is due to the quantity of work, but two-thirds is due to the lack of innovation and efficiency of our own markets. So we live in a world of uncertainties, and this is not the purpose today to revert on these uncertainties, tariffs and so on, but we put too many tariffs on our economies ourselves. So we know exactly what we have to do. It's well established in Letta report, Draghi report, and so on. So now the question is how to deliver. And this is the agenda we work on with the leaders and with the Commission. And it's a days and weeks issue. And I want to insist on that because for me, the end of this year is absolutely critical to deliver this agenda. First, this is simplification. I agree with you, it's not brand new. We don't speak about moonshots. But it's just to resynchronize our economies with the rest of the world in terms of sometimes timelines, regulation issue on trials and so on, but as well CSRD, CSDDD, simplification regarding the stock of the European legislation, etc., etc. It's super important. Second, the deepening of the single market. Everywhere we still have barriers, we kill the potential for all of you to have a domestic market of 450 million citizens. This is the biggest market, the biggest developed market with 23 million businesses and 450 million inhabitants. In a lot of sectors, we still have too many barriers, too many regulators and so on. So this is our agenda, and in this regard, the implementation of a 28th regime is clearly a very important move forward, and we back this approach. But telco and energy, as mentioned, are as well key focus to deliver that. Third, innovation. Quantum, AI, healthcare, defense, green tech, on these 5 sectors which are key to deliver our common agenda, we have to innovate much more. It's all about talents. We have the talents, we train them, we want to keep them. Scale. So on these key issues, this is where we have to focus clearly our energy to reduce the barriers. Speed. And everywhere we are lagging behind China and or US in terms of legal timelines, we will lose. And finance. This is why the 4th point is about capital market union. It's a very important point in this competitiveness and growth agenda. And today we have a strong alignment amongst all of us. So it's simplification of the current regulation, because you were right. 75% of the financing of the economies in Europe are financed through banks and insurance. And we put ourselves a regulation not to finance anything in equity through banks and insurance. So simplification of this regulation, securitization program to be delivered end of the year at our level and submitted next year to become a reality in 2026. And obviously the capital market union itself, with the reform of the supervision and simplification of our procedures and incentives to go to equity and innovation. We are the biggest place for savings, but a third of these savings just go to finance bonds and equity elsewhere, which is crazy. And the rest is largely over-financing our own bonds and not sufficiently our technologies. 5th, climate and energy. And this is the work we will finalize in the weeks to come to have enablers, but it's clear that if we want to deliver, and we are committed to this agenda, we have to work very hard, and I don't want to be too long, but we have a few moonshots on climate and energy and decarbonization in terms of financing and organization. And my last point is about European preference. It was till recently an awful word, totally impossible to be pronounced in a business meeting. But this is a necessity, because we are the unique crazy place where we don't protect our domestic players. In the US, you have a US agenda. In China, it's no more a Chinese preference. It's a Chinese exclusivity sometimes. In Europe, this is the only place where you can finance with the taxpayer money 100% non-European players. This is the only place where you put regulations on your players, but at the same time you negotiate the lifting of barriers with non-European players with a double standard. This is impossible just to pursue such an approach. And what we are doing on steel, for instance, is a very important point, because this is just protecting our players. It's not protectionism. This is part of this resynchronization. We have to accelerate, we have to innovate, we have to finance much more, we have to clearly be super innovative, but at the same time, if we want to remain sovereign, we have to protect the existing players when they suffer about the absence of level playing field. And what we started with the Chinese EVs, what we follow with the steel today is exactly what we have to do sector by sector, because this protection and this European preference are key elements of this competitiveness agenda. I don't want to be longer. I think the agenda is quite clear and the roadmap is quite consensual. And now the main issue for us is implementation and speed. And this is why we will focus in the weeks to come to deliver this agenda in order to put it in strong regulations at the European level, in order sometimes to deregulate, but to have clarification of that and make it real. I don't want to be longer. I want to thank you, Mette, to start this informal council and the summit of the European political community with precisely this business meeting and the opportunity to answer the Copenhagen pledge. Thank you.
If I could leave the word Prime Minister Tusk.
Thank you very much for your invitation. It was my almost obsession during our Polish presidency, what we are talking about here today. I mean, especially the regulation. I know you prefer the term simplification. I prefer the term deregulation, and I know why. Competitiveness is something that we have been talking about for the last 20 years, I think. But have we really implemented it? The single market is our most powerful instrument in favor of competitiveness. But when I again became Polish Prime Minister at the end of 2023, I found the same barriers, or even more barriers, to the single market as the ones that were there than 10 years before. The single market is not just a free trade area. It is a common good, so we need to have an honest diagnosis and act on the problems that we identify. I think that I can say that we in Poland have done our homework, and we have done the diagnosis work. And we didn't do it by ourselves, by the government alone. We have worked hand in hand with our businesses, our managers, business organizations, hand in hand with those who are the addressees of what we do. So, what is it about? First, as I said, the regulation. The EU has been legislating over the years, adding layer after layer. We in the EU have become a regulatory power, for sure, nationally and at EU level. This has to stop. Both the European Council and the Commission have understood it by now. The simplification omnibuses have been an absolute priority of the Polish presidency, same for the Danish presidency. Thanks to Mette and to Ursula, who are bringing this project forward really forcefully. The delivery is painful, but I can assure you that none of us will give up, and we will deliver. For you, the European companies, in a world of geopolitical uncertainties, of new tariffs, of very brutal world competition, we truly need to make life of our companies easier. Second, ambitions matching reality. And our reality today and tomorrow, I think everybody here will agree, is security. And security means armaments. Armaments means steel. Steel means reindustrialization. We have to be self-sufficient. We cannot outsource our security. But because of our energy costs, the highest in the world, and of course our climate regulations, companies are leaving Europe. I don't want to spoil the good atmosphere here and the good mood, but, and I fully understand your argumentation, Emmanuel, and yes, we have to protect our companies, especially our steel companies in Europe, in Poland, everywhere. But the reality is very brutal. I remember my last discussion with the biggest producer of steel in the world, and very active in Poland also. And he was brutally clear with me. There is no chance to continue his work on our continent with our overregulation, high energy prices. And this is why, not only for him, today the United States, Canada, Brazil is radically more attractive than Europe. And we have to be frank to each other with this. And as you know, we have no time. In the next few, not years, but months, it will be too late if we are not ready to react today to this. Even with my offer to him, I offer them, I mean, the steel producers, massive state aid in Poland. But they were really also very blunt with me. There's about business model, not about 1 or 2 or 3 actions with state aid or even European money. And this is why we have to think about our a real acceleration when it comes to the regulation process. Our ambitions cannot mean that we continue to impose new burdens on companies. It cannot mean that because of Europe, companies lose competitiveness vis-à-vis the world. Look at the world around us. We, Europe, are responsible for only 6% of the world's emissions. We cannot constantly be the ones who reduce emissions at a pace that no company can bear. We cannot constantly increase our ambition when others do not. That is exactly what competitiveness should be about. Yeah, we should be ambitious, and we are, but we have to do it wisely and responsibly. And of course, we have to do it together with our companies, managers, businesses. This is the only way to succeed. Thank you.
President.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us here today. Many familiar faces with whom we are working very closely together, and I know exactly that you have the spirit. Europe has strength, Europe has huge potential, but we have to unleash it. So therefore I would say, you said from reaction to action, that's correct, but also from words to action is now important. The Commission is since 9 months in office. You know that we have prepared our term by asking Draghi and Letter to prepare their reports, and the diagnosis was absolutely crystal clear, also the urgency behind it. And we all are committed to this diagnosis. We should also say that this is unique. We've never had that before, that all of us say this is the right way to go. Now we have to put it on the road. And therefore, we have started with, and you're familiar with that, with the different sectors or fields of action that are so important. Indeed, competitiveness and decarbonization. We've started with the Clean Industrial Deal. You asked for the simplification. You asked for the speeding up of the permitting and many other topics. It's in there. We have set up a startup and scale-up fund that is so badly needed for our startups that are innovative and that want to grow here in the European Union. We are proposing for the next long-term budget a competitiveness fund, also your ask, of 400 billion euros exactly to boost the competitiveness and to have the public hopefully associated with the private funding here in the European Union. On innovation, yes, we have to double down on innovation. We're good. We have talent in Europe. We know that. But the innovation, the breakthrough innovation, to turn it into a product that is scaling up and feeding in Europe, that's where we can get much better. We have proposed to double the investment in Horizon Europe, also one of your asks, and I hope that at the end of the long-term budget discussions, this will be maintained because it's a cornerstone of boosting innovation. We have 2 Achilles heels that you have identified too. That one is the structurally costs of energy, too high. The other one is that for financial services, we do not have a single market. There, it does not exist. It is too fragmented. Therefore, I could go very long on the energy topic. Important is on energy that we reduce our dependency on the volatility of the global market and that we invest more in homegrown, cheaper energy sources from nuclear to renewable, because this is where we define the price. On the global markets, you know, our dependencies can easily be weaponized. Of course, I'm aware that gas is a baseload that we will need, but the other energy sources have to be boosted even further. We have the Affordable Energy Action Plan, which is much broader. investment in grids and interconnectors, etc. That is already on the table, proposed by the Commission. On the capital market, as I said, we have basically no single market for financial services because it is so fragmented. This is why we launched the Savings and Investment Union. Emmanuel, you said it all, world champion in savings, but certainly not world champion in investing the capital here in the European Union. This is the project that we are pushing forward together. On defense, it's historic what happened in the last month on the European level, of course in close cooperation with NATO. But because the situation is as it is absolutely necessary that we have a massive surge in defense investment. This is why we enabled up to 800 billion of investment till 2030. The buzzwords are safe, the joint procurement, and the national escape clause. And there's an omnibus for defense that is on its road, the simplification in the defense sector, where the defense sector is asking for to be able to scale up and to produce faster and cheaper. This omnibus has to arrive. I'll come to that in a moment. Because when we look at simplification, we all agree we need simplification, we need deregulation. We need it on the European level. Actually, we also need it on the national level what the gold plating is concerned. So don't get me wrong on that one. But I hope that with the omnibuses, we are a good example, so others can also follow. There's one point that is crucial. We have now 6 omnibuses on their way. I started the first one in February. None of them has yet arrived at its goal, at its destination, because the co-legislators also have to do their job. And they have to come to an agreement. Before it's not agreed, you have no change. Even if we've put it on the road, you don't feel any change. These 6 omnibuses are 8 billion reduction of bureaucratic burden for you. But they will only arrive if the co-legislators finally agree. And therefore, next time when we have such a meeting, the Council is here, the Commission is here, the business sector is here. I would like to see the European Parliament here too, because we need them also to move the whole ship forward. Not the whole Parliament. Also, we don't have the 27 member states here, so not the whole Parliament, but they have a representation. Invite the leaders of the political groups so that they also can sense the urgency that is behind getting the job done. Of course, they can change our proposals. That's democracy. But get the job done. That's the point where I'm behind it. To look forward, indeed, the 28th regime is top of our agenda. Emmanuel, you spoke about it. I want to mention one topic that is absolutely crucial, and this is the headline overall, and this is artificial intelligence. We have to embark on that journey. Our companies hold more than half the global market in industrial automation solutions. We have a wealth of data. If we turn this in application, my God, what could we do? So I need you also there on this topic, but there's a huge potential untapped that Europe can unleash. I have a last point. That is homework, yes. For example, simplification in the single market, tear down the barriers. That's a terrible 10 that we address. But almost the whole world is now asking for free trade agreements with us. And that's a huge opportunity. We have concluded in these 9 months with Mexico, with Mercosur, with Switzerland, and just last week with Indonesia, a mining giant. In the pipeline are for this year India, Malaysia, and others that are, for example, the TPP countries that want to work close with us. This is a huge opportunity for our business to have the global market. If you look at Mercosur, it's 770 million people and a quarter of global GDP. So also a potential to tap into. You said, dear Jacob, you are extending your hand. Thank you so much. I know this by experience. Let us grab your hands, hold tight together, include the European Parliament, and make it happen. Thank you very much.
lot of very, very important phrases here. I hope all of Europe listens to what you have just said, all of you. At least we have from business as well. We want to be your partner in making this happen. Get the job done, please. And I think it is super encouraging to listen to your analysis and your strength in and believe in the importance of making this happen. It has an incredibly important effect on us. But there is also another dimension, the psychological effect of action, of things really happening. And we are at a stage now where the global situation forces us as industry so much that we need the psychological effect of you also showing the way and making it happen so we can feel it. So we know it's difficult. Somebody said this morning early that it's not only a talk about what's possible. We need to talk about what's necessary. And we need to get this done because it's necessary. So I hope you feel our commitment. It's a very, very seldom occasion that you have such a big group of the biggest companies, global companies in Europe who want to invest in Europe right at your hand to grab it and to promise investment if you give us the right framework. So with that, I would like to conclude this formal part of the event and thanking you dearly for making time to come around and meet European industry here in Denmark while you're here. Hope you will like Denmark and Copenhagen and have a good visit. You have been here before. I know you have had good experiences here. And I hope that will also continue in your very important meetings going forward. Also on security, because security and competitiveness goes hand in hand. You cannot separate it, which we have also spent time discussing last night and this morning. So we are confident that we today marks an even stronger partnership with you and our commitment between European businesses and EU leaders to take real action on Europeans' competitiveness and security. And I now invite you, dear heads of state and government and business leaders, excellencies, to proceed to the designated area. It sounds like I'm in an aircraft, but I'm not. To the designated area just down here in the back and continue the conversation in a more informal setting. Thank you so much for your words and for being here.